When it came time for the Messiah to come, the Romans had established themselves as a superpower throughout Europe, the Near East, and North Africa, and had brought what is called today the Pax Romana, or the Roman peace, through waging war and conquering their adversaries. This left Caesar with a large job of managing such a multicultural and diverse empire. Luke chapter 2 begins. In those days, Caesar Augustus issued a decree that a census should be taken of the entire Roman world. This was the first census that took place while Quirinius was governor of Syria, and everyone went to their own town to register. The Old Testament slowly revealed the people through whom the Messiah would come. It first prophesied that a descendant would come through Eve. Later, it revealed that the descendant would come through Abraham, his son Isaac, and his son Jacob. By the end of Genesis, we find out that the Messiah will be a descendant of Jacob's son Judah, father of the biggest tribe of Israel. And even later in the Old Testament, it is revealed that the Messiah will be a descendant of the great King David. In the New Testament, we see this prophecy being fulfilled when we read, "So Joseph also went up from the town of Nazareth in Galilee to Judea, to Bethlehem, the town of David, because he belonged to the house and the line of David." Joseph and Mary were not married yet, but they were betrothed, or what we might call engaged. In those days, to be betrothed was also the same as being married. So for the purposes of the Roman census, Mary needed to register with her soon-to-be husband. Verse 5 says, "He went there to register with Mary, who was pledged to be married to him and was expecting a child." Luke goes on to tell us, while they were there, the time came for the baby to be born. How exhausted they must have been from their travels and managing the crowds of Bethlehem. They might have been desperate for a quiet place to rest. And then it came time for the baby to arrive, seemingly the worst possible time. As any poor husband would, Joseph must have begged for a room for his wife, any place that she could lie down other than the streets. Maybe an innkeeper or someone had compassion on them. Maybe a desperate father-to-be got creative. But however it came about, Mary and Joseph found themselves in a place where the animals ate and rested. Maybe being in a place full of animals kept them warm and sheltered and away from the darkness and the streets. Maybe they were not alone. Maybe a midwife came to help. But what we know is this. Luke chapter 2, verse 7 says, "And she gave birth to her firstborn, a son. She wrapped him in cloths and placed him in a manger, because there was no guest room available for them." It was just as the prophet said. Events were orchestrated so Mary and Joseph ended up in Bethlehem. And just as prophesied, it came time for the baby to be born, and God provided a place for them, lowly, humble, unable to provide for themselves, dependent on God's compassion, And though it was not easy, though they may have been afraid, God was there with them, looking after them, providing for them. And as a tiny baby came to them in human form, came to us, Emmanuel, God with us.